Welcome to the 5% Club with your hosts Maria Mejia and David Pataki as they dig deep into what it takes to start, grow, and take your business to new levels. They do this by demystifying common mistakes, roadblocks, and pitfalls by handing you strategies, tips, and hacks. Get your pen and paper ready because here they are.
Hey everyone, hope you're having a great day today. Welcome to another episode of the
5% Club with David Pataki and
Maria Mejia, also known as your imported accountant and
I'm known as, well, at least in our little circle, I am known as the Panastic Business Coach because of my absolutely fantastic jokes that come out of my mouth on a regular basis.
And they are always jokes. Anyways, so we are so happy for everyone to be joining us today.
Now, before we get started here, Maria, so a grasshopper walks into a bar and the bartender says, "Hey, I've got a drink named after you." And the grasshopper says, "Really? You got a drink named Irving?"
Irving. Such an old name. No offense, any Irvings are listening, but oh my goodness. Those are dad jokes. Dad jokes to the max, man.
All right, so what do we want to talk about this week, Maria?
I was just about to ask you that, Mr. Panastic Business Coach.
All right, so we've talked a lot about market dominating position. What is it that stands you apart from everybody else? What do you do differently? So we've talked about that a number of different times. We talked about niche marketing. We've talked about figuring out who your target market is, creating a message specifically for them. So what we want to do is we want to kind of build on that. We want to talk about what it is, like how you should be out there speaking about yourself, whether you are speaking in public, whether you're speaking through podcasts, whether you're speaking through, social media posts and so on. So right now, I want to ask you, what are you known for? If someone looked at your current marketing collateral or your website and they never heard of you before, they know nothing about you, would it be obvious to them what you stand for? Or would your marketing look just like everybody else's these days, full of platitudes and vagueness that attempts to be all things to all people? It's this vagueness that brings us to what we want to talk about today. Using powerful language. When you speak with power, people believe you are powerful. When you speak with power, people are drawn to you. When you speak with power, your character and competency aren't questioned. And when people talk tough, when people talk bold, when people talk with power, they tend to possess that power. Think about the greatest talkers of all time. Muhammad Ali, what a great talker he was. He let his opponents know in the press conference that it was all over before he even stepped into the ring. And that was part of his persona. Now, you may be thinking I'm referring to intimidation here, or being arrogant, or even maybe cocky. No. What I'm talking about here is standing for something, drawing a line in the sand, and then using powerful language that communicates that exact position. And when you speak with power, you stand out from the crowd because no one else is doing it.
Yeah. This is very important, especially in this day and age when everything is done online and virtually. You can't go in front of every single person and be like, this is who I am, this is what I do. You have to rely on your marketing or your website, or even just like a one-line blurb. If you're interviewed for an article, you have to believe in those things to convey your power and your confidence. So understanding how to utilize that and the best way to kind of organize those thoughts is very important.
Yeah, 100%. And so what we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about what power talk is. And there's principles behind being able to talk from a strong position. And, as we talked about before, like if you're out there, throwing out the platitudes that everybody else is doing, especially on your website, because you got to remember something, like your online presence is your first impression to anyone who's looking for you. If they happen to come across a post that you talk about, that you've written, they've actually landed on your website. Now that's something that we're hoping to get people to do. But if they land on your website and all they see there is platitudes like, we have the best prices, we have the best customer service, we only hire
one.
we're number one, and we only hire the best people, then you're just like everybody else, and you cannot stand out from the crowd. We've talked about in the past about a market dominating position and niche marketing and understanding that, but you have to go one step further. You need to be speaking from a position of power. So let's talk about there are 11 principles that we're going to cover today. So Maria, what would be the first principle we should talk about?
So, principle number one, which I feel is probably the most important one, is that you need to be specific. So, the more detail that you can convey, the more credible you become. So, if you think of all of the times that you've heard someone say, we provide the best customer service, well, that's pretty vague, and that's, a platitude, which means nothing to most people. We always assume that, we're going to get the best customer service. But if you suppose that I'm a doctor, and in my ad, I say, we provide the best customer service in the medical community. Then when you show up for your appointment and you have to, wait to see the doctor, and the wait time is actually less than 5 minutes, guaranteed. So you can see that difference, like you can see they said on their website, we have the best customer service in the medical community. Well, our idea of, great customer service is, not waiting an hour to see the doctor. Well, they fulfilled that when you came in for your appointment. So the more specific you can be in your advertising, your posts, in your statements, the better you are, the more you stand out from the rest.
Right. And another way to identify whether you're using platitudes or not is it something that your prospects are expecting from you? Maria just touched on it there about the great customer service. We have the best customer service in the industry or whatever it is. Put yourself in the shoes of your prospect. If that's what you're expecting, I would expect wherever I go, I'm going to have good or great customer service because that's part of why I'm going there. So if you're saying something that you expect to happen, then that is an absolute platitude, and you should avoid those at all costs.
Yep. And something to kind of make it a little bit more personal is when I started my first accounting business and decided to file taxes for individuals, there's that basic, I'm going to file your taxes on time and I'm going to make sure everything's accounted for. Well, that's what the normal tax preparer, tax filer will do for you. But I go the extra step. I talk with you. I say, well, okay, you have this, this, and this right now. Is there anything else that we could utilize that you've done throughout the year? Let's brainstorm what you've been doing this year, what we can write off. And if you haven't tracked any of it, okay, well, what can we do so that you can claim it next year? I just had this conversation with my brother-in-law saying, well, you could have written off all these other things, but you don't have documentations yet. So let's create a list where you can write everything down for this year and you can claim it next year. So making your products or services unique and conveying that to other people is very, very important.
Right. And the one thing that you didn't mention that you always do is a tax credit review as well. Yeah. And principle number 2 is acknowledge the concerns of your prospect. This goes back to the hot buttons that we've talked about in earlier episodes. Again, you need your target market. So the more you understand your target market, the more you understand the hot buttons or the pain points that they have. Most people are extremely busy today. So visiting the doctor and having to wait an hour or more to be seen is usually a major concern for most of the patients. So acknowledge that hot button issue right from the start. When you talk about the doctor, They've got when you show up to your appointment, your wait time to see the doctor will be less than 5 minutes guaranteed. So that's their concern that they're addressing. So they know that the pain point of the patients are that they don't want to wait around for an hour or an hour and a half. Is the doctor behind or whatever it is? But if I know I'm going to see this doctor and I'm going to get in there in 5 minutes or less, I'm going to that doctor. I don't want to sit around and waste my time. So there it is. We're acknowledging the concerns of the prospects.
Yeah, something to think about that. Sometimes when we want to tell people how we'll resolve their concerns, we kind of get lost in the minutia, the details of how we will resolve. We don't care what the doctor does behind the scenes to make sure that everyone gets seen on time and that we come to the appointment on time. We're going to be seen in a relatively reasonable amount of time. We just care that we're going to be seen before we got to, run back to work or run over and pick up the kids from school. So, let your clients know, like, hey, we know this is a concern that everybody has when they're looking for something to solve these problems with these products or services. So letting them know that you have the resolutions for that, it's very important and it's meaningful to them. And that kind of goes back to the emotion that we talked about last week or last podcast episode, is if you're able to kind of tug on their heartstrings, let them know that you care, that you're concerned for their well-being, they're more likely to gravitate towards you.
Exactly, Maria. So what would principle number 3 be?
So number 3 kind of merges with that, is to tell the story if and when it's appropriate. So in this case, the story is that you're going to, what's the story that you're going to tell that supports your market dominating position? So like I said previously, your clients don't care how things are done, but if they do, you have a short, succinct story of telling them, okay, we look after our clients very quickly because we kind of get to the point of their concerns. We listen to what they say, but we have these specific questions that we ask to help get to that point much faster than kind of asking these 10 million relatively generic questions.
Right, like telling a story, it's not always appropriate, and the story should be something that is not that you just come up with. It is something that you should be working on, and it could be an organic process where you start with specific facts, and then you're able to massage them over time. This is usually when you're in perhaps in a networking event and you have a longer time to talk to somebody, or even if you have an opportunity to do a podcast or have some sort of speaking engagement. That's typically when the story is appropriate, or on the About Us or the About Me page on your website. That would be a great place to put the story, right? And the story should always have some sort of conflict in it. And then the resolution of that conflict is what has allowed you to create the market dominating position. Right. For myself, like I had a really good year. I had like the best year that turned into the worst year. And from that, I was able to pick the pieces up and be able to create this, coaching business that Maria and I have got to. This is the accumulation of all those things that I've learned, all those strategies I've sought after to find. In looking back and reflecting on all those problems that I have, and how can I solve it easier and faster for your folks out there? So that would be, a very quick story, summary of the story that I would be telling if it was an appropriate time.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and the story changes throughout the times, throughout the years, throughout the times that you tell it. Because I know I've listened to David's story many times through different networking events or workshops that he's done, and it changes, it evolves. So don't think that you write down the story once and that's the one that you have to stick to throughout the rest of the life of your business. It can change. And for those people kind of younger in business, such as when I was trying to create my story, is think of any of the struggles that you have run into. So for me, it was being dyslexic, having that issue of not being able to read and write, and numbers were complex. So having that learning disability, I was struggling throughout my years, and utilizing that in my passion of wanting to help other people, because I knew what it was like to struggle and to not understand things, not comprehend what was being told to me. I want to be able to help other people because I know how complex taxes and bookkeeping and finances can be. They might not make sense to you, but they make sense to me. So that's part of my story. That passion is right in there.
Right. Exactly. That's something that, when I was talking to Maria, and Maria's a great example of that. The second iteration of the bookkeeping business. She's already talked about it. Today in past podcast episodes, is that like because we were able to look at the business a different way and say, okay, what can we do and follow the principles that we talk about on here. I mean, we're not just saying these things because we want to fill the airwaves. We know that these work, so that's why we talk about it. And principle number 4 is having a strong opinion. And this may be one of the most important points of them all, because guess what people want when they go to buy something? They want to go somewhere that has a strong opinion about something. And when you voice a strong opinion, you stand out from everybody else. But you've got to understand this. When people go to buy something, they want confidence that they're buying the right thing that will produce the end result that they're looking for. Right?
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about this before. You want to make sure, I mean, every time we talk about this, it's interesting how it comes back to you need to know your target market. You need to understand what they're looking for. In that golden rule, I said, I think it was the last time, what you need to do is find out exactly what your prospects want and you deliver it to them, right? Now, this is taking it one step further. And if you can be confident in being able to talk about it, they want confidence that they're getting the best deal, which means that the most value for the price that they pay. A strong opinion gives them that confidence that they want you to have one, and they want you to have one, right? And again, it goes back to the most value for the price you pay. We're not talking about the lowest here. Don't go out, don't say, all this and we're going to be the lowest. No, because you're giving them the valued solution for the price, the most value for that, most valued solution for the price they're paying. And even if it means that you're actually paying more than the competition.
Yeah. And something that also goes with that is kind of your ethics. Like, where are you willing to draw the line? That goes with your opinion. Some tax advisors, tax filers will be willing to, fudge the numbers and be willing to be like, hey, you had this expense and this expense and you ran it through the business. Okay, let's just call it a business expense. Whereas my value is, you gotta prove to me that it's an actual legitimate business expense. You got to show me the trail, because the CRA or anybody else that comes to audit is going to be asking you these exact same questions and are going to be judging you much harder than I'm going to be judging you. So, that's where my line is. Like, if you can't prove to me that it's a good, legitimate expense, I am not going to claim that for you. You're going to have to either file it yourself or go to someone else. So and my clients know that I only work with them if they're willing to, have those higher ethics as well. And they know that if anybody comes asking me, that I have the confidence to say, like, yeah, this is an expense and they claimed it for this reason. They know that I have their back for whatever issues might come up.
Right. And the reason you do that, not necessarily because of your integrity. I mean, your integrity is a strong part of it, but you want to protect your clients, right? I mean, it's all about being audit proof. At the end of the day, you are there to represent your client and to protect them. And if you just, if you let that slide a little bit, then you're putting your clients at risk, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that kind of also goes into number 5, which is, tell it like it is. Don't mince your words. Your customers want the same things, and your prospects also want the same things. They want straight talk. They don't want you to beat around the bush or to sugarcoat different situations. They want to know and trust you. So don't mince your words. Don't use lots of flowery words like we said at the beginning. Don't use the same words that everyone else is using because apparently they have higher sales right now. Just straight to the point. People want to be kind of pretty much be given bullet points of what you're going to do for them.
Right. And principle number 6, falls right behind that. Use plain English. What that means is that say it the way people talk. Stop trying to write like Shakespeare or all this eloquent way of speaking. Just write like you're speaking to your best friend. Because guess what? That's the way the prospect likes to be communicated to. You don't utilize something, for example, you use it. And don't say at this point in time. You should say now. Use plain English. Don't mince your words. It's about being easily understandable. Like I know a lot of times you think that, well, my clients, they're well educated and so on and so forth. Well, that may be, but when they're speaking to their friends, they're generally using, the communicator conversation language.
Yep. And this kind of sometimes will change a little bit depending on who it is that you're speaking to and who your ideal clients are. Obviously, if you are working with someone in your industry, say like David's talking to another business coach, talking business coach to business coach, or I'm talking to another accountant, in the same industry, you can use industry slogans, you can use, shorthand of things. But when you're talking to your clients, well, those are completely different kinds of people. They might not be in the same, they might not, traverse in the same industry as you do day in and day out. They just want whatever service you have to offer, and they want to move on to the next thing. They want to spend time with their family, so use those small words to help them understand, and kind of that goes with the not mincing of the words. Just use the most smallest succinct words that they'll understand, but also so they don't feel like you're talking down to them. So if you're talking to a business owner who's making a couple million, you're not going to talk to them the same way as a brand new college student who's just starting their very first business.
Right, and then I see this a lot as well, especially when it's either a computer business, IT business, or a software business, somewhere that has very technical jargon, and they tend to get caught up in that, especially when they're talking to prospects, right? I mean, maybe in their marketing, they're not so much, but I've seen this time and time again. If you're a programming person, I've a number of those clients in the past, and when they get on a roll, they'll use all these jargon to try to explain the whole process, when really that's not what you need to do. You need to be talking specifically about how what they do is going to help the prospect. That's really all they want to know. They don't want to know all the 14 different steps that you need to program in there to make that work.
Yep. And if you ever, question that, if is what I'm saying, is that going to be understood by my ideal clients? Well, go find someone who is your ideal client and be like, hey, can I run this past you? Does this make sense? If it doesn't, what could I use? What words could I better use so you can understand what I'm trying to convey? I do this a lot. I go to my mom all the time. I'm like, hey, I wrote this. Can you look over it? Does it make sense? Do you understand? If she's not busy, I go to my husband and other family members, and I say, hey, does this make sense to you? I know a lot of, accounting and finance term, and you guys aren't in that field. So does this make sense, and do you understand it? So, look for people, family members who aren't your clients, or you can look for people who are your ideal clients and, kind of run them through tests of what you're going to put out there.
Right. And what would be principle number 7?
So number 7 is to elevate the attitude. So speaking with passion and conviction. So here's an assignment for you. If you go and watch TV in the next week and watch those legal shows where they're in court and one of the attorneys is, defending a client against a lawsuit. There's plenty of those shows out there, or you can even just jump on YouTube and look up one. I want you to watch the passion of those attorneys. They really get into it. They believe in what they're saying, and they display appropriate passion for those situations as well. So they elevate their attitude in the courtroom, and believe me, that attitude affects the jury more often than not.
Yeah, being passionate about, your customers' needs, how you can deliver that service is always a good way, because again, there's a certain amount of attitude that comes across when you're speaking. It does show up in your writing as well. So think about talking or writing from that mindset. Sorry.
Yeah.
Struggling a little bit there with mindset. Yeah. So think about the mindset. Yeah, and I would say, if you're not passionate about what you're doing, then maybe you're not in the right business, right? If not, maybe you need to do a little bit of a rethink and go, okay, so what the solution that I am offering these clients are actually making a difference in their life. And that's what I'm getting out of the product, or that's what I'm getting out of the product or service that I'm delivering to my clients. They're getting a solution that they didn't have, and you can build on that passion, the fact that they're happier, or they're able to do something easier, or they're enjoying a certain product. Maybe it's a pool in the backyard. You go, yes. You're bringing memories, family memories to those people. Like, those are the things you need to be thinking about, and you speak from that passion.
Mm-hmm. And something else you can think of is when you're watching a presentation, if someone has a monotone voice throughout the whole thing, you're not as invested in what it is that they're saying. Whereas if you watch a professional public speaker, you're sucked in to their different stories. You're kind of sucked in to their passion, their display of excitement, their displays of sadness. You're in there with them in the trenches with all their experiences that they share. So speaking with the passion that you have for your products and services will help your customers, your potential clients, have that same passion as well.
Right. So principle number 8 is becoming your customer's advocate. And this means by providing genuine advice. This is how we talk powerfully. We become your customers, or you can become your customer's advocate in the industry. Tell them the things that they need to know, and especially what they should know that no one else is telling them. Give them the impression that you're here to help them make the best decision. Like, really, okay, we talked about that in the past. Marketing, one of the main purposes of marketing is to help people make the best decision. So when you can point out aspects that help them make that buying decision easier, then you're helping your prospect move along the buyer's journey.
Mm-hmm. And being an advocate, show them that you know what you're talking about, and you're willing to, have their back with any concerns or anything that comes up, those road bumps that they come up in that buyer's journey. I've come across this with some different vendors that I've worked with, where I'm like, I don't know what it is that I need. You guys know what it is that I need. Let me know what I should be doing and how much it will cost me. And if they sound confident and they're like, oh yeah, you need this and this and this because this will help your business, or other things like that, I'm more willing to purchase from them because I have that confidence that, they're always going to have my back. If something changes while I'm with them, they're going to let me know right away and be like, okay, well, this just happened. We need to maybe, change your marketing plan, or we need to figure out, how to better brand yourself. You need to let your customers know that you're going to always be there for them while they're working with you.
Absolutely. Now, and what principle number 9 be?
Yeah. So principle number 9 is kind of our, take a quick little break and, check yourself. Your confidence is also, make sure that your confidence is not cocky and that it's more matter of fact. So back in the 90s, announcers would interview Tiger Woods. He stated emphatically that if he had his game in sync, no one could beat him. Now, was that cocky? Well, not necessarily. It's a statement of fact. Everyone watching it from home, everyone from the golf course, including all the other golfers on the tour, golfers, I don't think I know how to speak today. Well, they all knew that it was true. It's not cocky, it's confidence. It's matter of fact. Everybody knows, Tiger Woods #1, especially, way back then. And so if you state things matter of factly, only the facts, that confidence will be shown and your clients will see it.
Right, and there's a fine line between being cocky and confidence. So you need to find that line, but you also need to be able to back up your statement, and that's what makes it a fact. When Tiger Woods was out there, when his game was in sync, he was the de facto best golfer in the world. And, there was no beating him. So that's why that wasn't being cocky. That was just stating a fact. So when you're talking about your marketing or when you're talking about the service or product that you provide, you've got to find that line and make sure that you can back up what you're stating. And that makes it confidence and not cockiness.
Yep. And like David said, if you have the data to back up what you're saying, if someone else comes in, your competition comes in and says, you're being cocky, can you really, do what you're saying? You can tell them like, yes, I can do what it is that I state that I do because, X, Y, Z, I have these processes in place and I can do it. I can fulfill my promise that I have, sent out to people. Right. So number 10, we're almost done.
Principle number 10. Yeah. So 10 out of 11 here. So find and use power words and or juicy words. Juicy words, sometimes they use sexy, but not in any kind of a sexual manner, but something that's more appealing. So a juicy word or a sexy word is something that brings out a powerful mental image on the mental canvas of the listener or the hearer or the viewer of your ad. This is something that's hard to teach, but it's easy to look at examples and say, oh, there's a juicy word. And then you could try to insert some juicy words with the power words into your marketing and see if it resonates with your prospects. Now, the juicy, sexy words, it all depends on what your niche market is. It's going back to that, surprise, surprise, we're back to the whole understanding your target market and what their pain points are. And that's where those juicy/sexy terms, words come from, so that they are speaking. And the whole point of those is to elicit a mental image of them, enjoying that product or service or enhancing their life or providing that solution. They were able to see it in their mind before they purchase.
Yeah, creating that strong illustration in their minds using kind of not just like flowery words, but power words, those sexy words, as David was saying. Don't use the same words that everyone else is using in your industry to try and get clients. You want to be able to stand out from all the rest, stand out from the crowd. What is your ideal client needing? What's their pain point? Well, what are some different ways that you can say that you're resolving those pain points? So for, the lawn maintenance guy that we kind of put aside for a little bit, we're going to bring him back in. he offers, that lawn care, that, a manicured lawn, that would be pretty nice figurative words there for people who are in the nicer neighborhoods. But a manicured lawn for kind of those lower income families, they don't really care about that. So understanding who your ideal clients are will help you figure out which words are going to resonate and hit with them.
Right, just to build on that example, and a great one, Maria, there, you could say, oh, you'll have a great lawn to look at, or you could say, you'll provide amazing curb appeal, right? Like those words, paint a better mental image than a great, wonderfully green front yard, right? Or, this great curb appeal. Like, they're saying more or less the same things, but one expression is more juicier or / sexier than the other.
Yep. And so the final point that we kind of want to hit today is concede faults or concede to any downsides that there might be. So you might be thinking, well, I don't know about telling prospects that I have certain faults. I don't want to look bad to people. But truth be told, if you have some faults, concede them. Let people know. It actually gives you credibility when you admit that you're not the best or you're not the number one for certain situations. And there are also times when you may not be the best choice. So if you think about this, you draw a line in the sand and you concede to the fact that you don't fit every single situation out there. For example, David's a business coach. Well, we know a bunch of other business coaches as well. Well, people who are, great clients for David might not exactly be great clients for other business coaches, and vice versa. Understand where your strengths are and accept the facts of your weaknesses. So for me, I've, communicated with some prospects and some clients who need certain tax help that I am not able to give. I let them know, like, hey, I can't help you with this exact situation, but I know other people who will be able to help you. And I know for sure, 100% confidence that they will help you. That actually gives you that gives the clients more confidence in you. You get kind of extra bonus points for, even though you can't solve the problem, you're able to direct them exactly to the person who is able to solve that problem.
Right, and what that allows you to do is a few things. You touched on it there, Maria. It gives confidence in the clients and working with you. That there are many times in my life where someone has promised me the world, and when we get to it, they can't deliver on some of the things that they promised on, and then my confidence in them plummets. I don't think they and even if they could do well in other aspects, I'm already tainted from that one experience, right? And the second thing it does, it also gives you an opportunity to set up joint venture relationships with other people that do have strengths in where you have the weaknesses. And if you're able to refer back and forth, you've given yourself a referral partner that can help build both of your businesses. Nothing is more disheartening, in my opinion, than going to talk to someone, promising the world, and then letting you down because they can't deliver on something that they promised.
Yep. So we have covered a lot in today's episode, and just kind of to summarize what we've been talking about, is the principles of what we call power talk, or how you convey your message to your clients and your potential clients. So just quickly running through it for you. If you're writing this down, we'll help you make sure that you've gotten all the points. Number 1 is to be specific, to let your customer know what it is that you do and how you solve their problem. Number 2 is acknowledge the concerns of your prospects. Number 3 is to tell a story if and when it is appropriate. Number 4 is to have a strong opinion. Number 5 is to tell it like it is. Number 6 is very similar to it, is to use plain English. don't confuse people with industry jargon. Number 7 is to elevate the attitude and to speak with passion and conviction. Remember those attorneys in those TV law court situations. Number 8 is to become your customer's advocate. Let your customers know that you have got their back. Number 9 is that confidence is not cocky. If it is a matter of fact, have that data to support what you're saying. Number 10 is to find and use power words and juicy words. What are those sexy words that people aren't using yet that you can start using? And number 11 is to concede your faults or any downsides that there might be, because, what your weakness is somebody else's strength, and figure out ways to utilize both of them.
Right. And the whole point here behind the powerful talk is that people, pardon me, people want to work with the experts in the industry. In that area that they're looking for, whether it's a product or a service, they would rather talk to the experts. So if you speak powerfully, you are already elevating yourself as an expert. And going back to the niche marketing, if you are a real estate agent that works with everybody, then you can't be an expert in any one thing. But if you pick the niche market and you speak with powerful words, and you speak with the passion, you speak with the attitude, you speak with the confidence, that will automatically boost you up as the expert in the industry. And people will seek you out because you are talking like that. You're an advocate for them. You're not everything to everybody. These are all super important things that you need to understand. It's hard to implement, because there's a lot of different things. But if you start implementing these things one at a time, you'll just get better and better and better, and people will be they'll be seeking you out as the expert.
Yep. So our challenge for you here in the 5% Club, we like to say, want to write it down. You are part of the 5% Club. Woo! So write down 2 of these Power Talk tips that you can work on this week and implement them in your business, and just see the amount of change that you will experience. You guys are an amazing crowd, and it's always fun to kind of talk into the computer and hope that people are listening sometimes. So,
awesome. Yeah. Fantastic conversation there. So, like, share, laugh at us, whatever it is. Well, laugh at me,
laugh at everyone in a good way, of course. And, share this with anybody that you feel might benefit from these tips, as well as, send us a message on our website or our Facebook page and let us know what topics you would like to hear from us. And we will see you, and you guys will hear us in our next episode. Bye.
So wait, next time you go into the bar, make sure you ask for an Irving drink. And
yeah, good old Irving. I know that one.
AKA the grasshopper. All right. So success is easier than you think. All you need to do is ask us.
See ya.